theory of hugeness and science of product market fit. So let's put our hands together for Josh David Miller.
What? Oh, no, we're good. That's all right. Wow, okay, well, thanks for the round of applause. I feel like I want to get a main line of that shit for this afternoon. That was pretty good. Thanks. So, yes, I am going to be talking about product market fit. That's obviously not the right letter, or two letters that are missing there. We'll see how much else is missing there. Yeah, we got a little formatting fun here. Okay, well, should along the way you have no idea what on earth I'm talking about is written behind me, let me know, and I will translate my wingdings for whatever's supposed to be written on the slides. Okay, so Eva did just give you the name of the talk. It was kind of like a sophisticated title there for the thing. But then as I started writing it, it was really big on the slide. And then second, I was like, this isn't really what I'm talking about. Really talking about here is how to just grow your startup really huge. And junk, because I'm going to talk about some other stuff too along the way. But I want to start with, because we are talking about product market fit, I do want to start with just that question of what is product market fit? So before I tell you my thoughts on it here, I'd love to hear maybe two people just shout out. Like, how would you define product market fit? Who's got something for me? Who's brave and vulnerable? Not a one? Okay, let's take a step back here. How many of you here are entrepreneurs? Okay, plenty of hands, great. How many of you here are entrepreneurs of scalable companies? Okay, so that's actually a minority of you. So some of this might be a little new. That's actually really good to know. So let's actually just look at some definitions from some experts. So Mark Andreessen, the famed investor, said product market fit means being in a good market with a product capable of satisfying that market. Okay, I guess, sure, why not? Sean Ellis said it's when a man walks up to a bar and tells 10 people about your product. Okay, so it's the same thing, but we're going to put some math to it, I suppose, as a rubric. Andrew Chen said it's when people who know that they want your product are happy with what you're offering. Okay, so kind of a theme there. And then Steve Blank, Dick talked about him this morning, the godfather of the startup, said it's when you create a product that people want to buy. So people are kind of all working around the same thing, but I don't feel like we really got a definition. I don't feel like we got any answers there. It's this ephemeral thing. It's, you know it when you see it. It's hand-wavy. It's an art, not a science. It's not really helpful. And I don't think it has to be that way. So I want to help kind of cut through some of that and get to a definition. But before I do, you should probably know who is this guy with the bright colored shoes and questionable mental health standing and talking to you about product market fit, and why should you care about what he has to say. So I'll start with that. My name is JDM, aka Josh David Miller, also known as J Doom. And if you walk around and ask people in Sacramento, you'll get that I'm the shredder of business models. It's a name that's been bestowed upon me. I've decided that it's a compliment. I've chosen not to ask. But the 30,000 foot view is that I'm an entrepreneur who teaches entrepreneurs how to entrepreneur. Or as I like to say, I help scalable companies find product market fit. So that's really what we're going to talk about here today. I only get 30 minutes. It's a complicated topic, so I'm really not going to spend much time talking about me. I'm not that interesting anyway, if I'm being honest. So, but before I actually talk about product market fit, you probably at least want to know some credibility. You're supposed to establish some credibility when you're on stage. So let me tell you a little bit about what I've done. Just some quick stats. I've heard and reviewed more than 3,000 startup pitches. I've helped more than 100 startups launch or scale. Been part of more than 500 innovations and facilitated more than 100 traction events with companies. I've had the pleasure of working with all kinds of awesome people before, so logo cloud to show that I'm not man off the street. And with that, that's enough said about me. Again, not very interesting. Let's move on to product market fit. Okay, so the first question I want to start with is why? And yes, to answer your question, I am going to talk at this speed for the next 30 minutes. Normally, if I have 60 minutes to talk, it's going to be half filled with jokes. So I've cut all the jokes out. Sorry. It's going to be not very funny, but I am going to spend the next 25 minutes or so squeezing your brains like a stress ball. But the question I have is why? Why are we talking about product market fit? And I mean that literally, because if you talk about Subway franchises or car manufacturers or service companies or hair salons, nobody talks about product market fit. But when it comes to startups, it's all anybody talks about is product market fit and how do you get product market fit and why are we talking about this thing in the first place at all, let alone trying to come up with a precise definition for what it is. Okay? It's because at its core, startups are not small versions of big businesses. You can't see it on the slide here, it looks like, but Steve Blank's definition there is that they're organizations in search of a business model. That means is that startups are different than other companies. If you're Toyota or you're a Subway franchise and you're out there trying to figure out what the next product is you want to launch, you pour into your data. You go and you say, this is exactly who buys cars. This is exactly who buys sandwiches. And you know what? This is exactly what this kind of person buys. This person likes this particular kind of meat on their sandwich or this vegetable on their sandwich. This is the kind of person who buys 4 doors, 5 doors, 2 doors. This is the kind of person who gets the luggage rack on the top, the autopilot. They know all of that information. So that then they can take this universe of people who buy cars, take a look at all the products out there and find some conglomeration, some cluster that is underserved that they can then create a product that they can serve to. Right? And so it's not guaranteed to win, but they're starting with a lot of data. The problem is, if you're working on anything innovative, if you're a startup and you're working on something that hasn't exactly been done before, you don't have any of that data. You don't know who's going to buy it. You don't know what kind of people are going to say no or yes. You don't even know what the product is yet. You're working to co-create that over time. And so we have to approach the process of being a startup fundamentally differently than we approach something where we have a lot of data. So that's why we need a different process for it. And there's a lot of names for it. There's you have the lean startup, right? There's all kinds of names, customer development, 4 steps to the epiphany. There's all kinds of names for this process that we follow. I like to think of it as the search for a credible theory of hugeness, which I'm going to talk about for a little bit now. So the credible theory of hugeness. So hugeness, you're a scalable startup, you're trying to grow really big. You're not big now. You need a theory of how you're going to get from small to big. And that theory can't be pulled out of your ass. It must be based on something. Therefore, it must be credible. Credible theory of hugeness is what we're looking for. It's a good way to think about startups. Let me just kind of break that down super quick, right? Oh, hey, this one shows up correct. All right, so hugeness. All right, and that's where we're looking for a big pool of customers, a massive market that's growing, that have a severe problem that's really urgent, they feel it really hard, that we can actually go and solve. So there's some big market out there that we can solve. So hugeness, right? We're making a big play in a big market. That we need to know, though, how we're going to get huge, because we're not huge now. We're pretty freaking tiny. It might just be me or me and a couple of co-founders. So we need to figure out how we're going to develop a value proposition that really resonates with those people, find a way into the market, and then once we get into the market, find a way to leverage that into the broader market overall so we can create that company that scales, right? So you have to have a theory about how we're going to make that happen, because we're not there yet. But again, that theory needs to be credible. This is a way of saying the theory is right because. That's what we're looking for. The timing, the team, customers are saying yes. We've got what we call traction in the market. We have all these reasons why we believe that this theory of how we're going to go from nothing to something is actually going to work for us. Okay, so the reason you actually need a credible theory of hugeness is because startups are fundamentally different. And if you're going to go out and raise venture capital, right, investors who are looking for 10x, 100x returns on their investment, you need to be able to demonstrate to them that you have that credible theory of how you're going to go really large. But forget investors for a second. Set investors aside for a moment, because you're spending your treasure and you're spending your time building this thing. And time is the one resource you can never get more of. So don't you want to be sure that you're focusing on something that's worth your time? That's why you want to make sure you're placing a credible theory of hugeness. So I actually want to take a moment, break this down in a little bit more detail, kind of make it a little bit more tactical, a little bit more actionable, especially since a lot of you aren't really familiar with this whole concept, which is great, because now I'm telling you about a controversy that most of you aren't aware of, and then I'm going to solve it here, so you get to just assume that I'm right, which is awesome. So let's break it down. We're going to do the same kind of structure we did before. So, wow. Okay, so first of all, hugeness, right? We're going to do the same order we did before, is you need the ability to scale really large. Well, we mean is like, why is this worth our time? Why is it this versus something else? Why are we going to have this be the thing that we want to do? There are 3 components to hugeness. The first is because startups are different, you're looking for a really big exit. Right? Investors get paid when there's that payoff at the end, when it gets sold or goes public or something like that, right? So you have to go from 0 to huge, aiming for that liquidity event so that everybody gets their money. We also talk about this as if you're a startup founder, you're going to spend a few years of your life living like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life living like most people can't, right? You're trading short-term money for a lot of long-term money, right? So you're after that really big exit. That's the goal. That's one of the things that makes it fundamentally different, is that big exit at the end. So that's the first component of hugeness. In order to have a big exit, we have to be playing in that really big market. We have to be able to identify there's this huge group of people out there, this massive unsolved problem, that market's getting bigger all the time. There's always more customers coming in and more people that we can sell to. And you know what? We as a founder, we're absolutely obsessed, singularly focused on that market and our ability to solve problems in that market. Right? We can't have that big exit until we're so focused on that really big and growing market. So we have to have a really big market. And the third component of hugeness is that within that market, you're not just selling snake oil that nobody actually wants, you're selling something that people like. In design thinking, we call that desirability. So not only are there lots of potential customers, but they have this really big problem that right now is either completely unsolved or is solved really poorly. Right? And now we're saying that you can solve it better through some type of scalable product that people love, right? And the reason we say it's a scalable product is, again, because you're trying to go after that really big market. A service business doesn't scale. Products scale, like consumer packaged goods scale, pharmaceuticals scale, software scales. There's lots of things that scales, but service companies, they don't, right? Unless you can franchise them or do something weird with that, but we're going to leave the edge cases out, right? So you have to have a scalable, lovable product that solves that thing. Right? So big exit, really big market, everybody wants a solution to this problem within that market. That's the hugeness side. The second component is that theory. Because you're not big and you say, I can capture this really big market, oh, we're going to be $1 billion company in 3 years, right? You have to say why you think that that's true, because by default, it ain't going to be true. Right? It's the reality is going to look catastrophically different than that. So how are you going to get from where you are to there? And there's actually 3 components to any theory of hugeness. It is the go-to-market, the business model, and the feasibility. And those are all actually pretty straightforward. So go-to-market is how you actually get the early customers, what we call early adopters, super efficiently, super cheaply, that we can use as a wedge. We get into the market with these early customers, and then we expand to the broader market. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with what we call early adopters, these are the early innovator people. They're the ones who not only do they have the problem that you think that they do, but they know that they have the problem, right? Not everybody who has a problem is aware of it, right? So they have to be aware that they have the problem. And then once they're aware that they have the problem, you don't just be like, yeah, it's a problem. You want them actively searching for a solution to a problem, right? That's me Googling, by the way, or asking ChatGPT. So you have to be actually searching for a solution. Then within that group, you want the ones that are so desperate for a solution, they didn't stop at the Google search. They kept going and hacked something together. They had to find some solution because this problem sucks so damn bad. So they created some way of trying to solve it, and it sucks, and you could do it better, but they're trying to solve it somehow. And then the last part of the early adopter criteria is that they have a budget for whatever you're working on, right? So they have the problem, know that they have the problem, actively looking for a solution, so desperate for one that doesn't exist that they hack something sucky together out of spare parts, and they've got a little money to throw at you. Right? Those are your early adopters. You have to figure out how to identify them, how to get in front of them really cheaply, really efficiently, and use them as a springboard or a wedge or whatever metaphor you want, beachhead, to get into the market so that you can expand a lot broader. A lot of entrepreneurs really mess up here and go to market. If you've seen as many startup pitches as I have, or even a small fraction of them, you get the common thing that says, well, a go-to-market is Instagram because that's where all of our customers are. That's not a go-to-market. You just give a channel, right? Instagram is a channel, and a poorly defined one at that, by the way, because Instagram is an awfully big place. What you actually need is a whole combination of things. It's pricing, it's the distribution channel, it's knowing the distinction between doing ads with certain groups on Instagram versus using influencers on Instagram versus some type of viral organic growth, which is really hard. Please don't have that be your go-to-market. And it's a combination of 14 other things that go into this whole way that this is actually how we're going to get into market, how we're actually going to get those early customers. So that's our go-to-market theory. Once you get those customers, though, you have to have a business model. And there are lots of ways to document business models. Everybody's familiar, at least in concept, with business plans. Those of you from the startup space are familiar with business model canvases or lean canvas or value mapping. All those things are all different ways of documenting a business model, but they're all looking at the same 4 questions. So I don't care about all that complexity. At its core, a business is 4 things. It's who is the customer, what's the value you're creating, how is that value created and delivered, and why does this make money, right? So you have a clearly identified customer, their life is better somehow, what is happening such that their life is better, right? How are we actually making that a reality? How are we creating that, and how are we getting that value in front of them? And then lastly, of course, we're doing this for a particular reason. We're doing this to make money. So how does it make money? So you have to have a business model, right? So part of our theory, we have those early adopters, we got in front of them, we have a business model that's going to kind of work. The third component of our theory of hugeness is feasibility. It's literally how are we going to get it done? This is like if you are doing an app and you're a non-technical founder, how are you going to bridge that gap? Is it going to be a co-founder? Are you going to hire? If you so, how are you going to go through that process? Is it something within your capability of doing or within your capability to hire to do, or is it something outside of that, right? And feasibility in the early stages is super light. It's not detailed. You don't have to create an app to prove feasibility. We all know how an app works, right? But if you say instead that you're building a cold fusion device, feasibility kind of takes a whole other thing there. That was a joke at the cold fusion people, but I could see in this room we're not all up on the pseudoscience, and that's fine. We all have our own hobbies. So that's your theory. It's those three components. So now we have a theory of hugeness, but that's all it is this cockamamie scheme. And so we need credibility. We need a way to know that we're actually right, that this theory can pay off for us in the end. And credibility is a really complex thing. I could talk all day about credibility, but I'm going to boil it down to 5 T's. That's timing, team, traction, and technology. Those are the 5 little components, the 5 T's. So we'll take them in turn. So the first one is that we are right because the TAM is really big. TAM is your total addressable market. That's that universe. We have evidence to show, market research, our own experimentation to show this is a really big market where we can make a play. Okay? So the TAM is really, really big. Next, there we go. Because the timing is right. Our theory is right because the timing is right. This is often neglected, right? Timing is the idea that just because there's a problem out there doesn't mean the market's ready to actually pay for it right now. Everybody wants to say like, oh, we're going to be the first to market with this. And I go, ooh, because the first to market's usually pretty bloody. Second to market's the one who crushes it, right? So first to market's not always good. Having competition is great. But that's not the only indicator of timing. It could be competition, but it could also be that there's something similar happening in an adjacent market, right? And so you go like, oh, so if we actually come in and do this thing, it'll make sense to people because of what's happening over here. Think of like Airbnb versus Uber. Completely different, but we get it, right? We get gig economy because of one by virtue of the other one, right? It could be that there's a shift in the cultural zeitgeist. Maybe privacy is becoming really important now, right? So, and that trend is only increasing. The timing could be really, really right. Okay? So our theory is right because the timing is right. Because our technology is real and defensible. This goes back to that feasibility question. That you have to have the ability to actually create the thing, right? And so this is where you actually start getting evidence of your ability to execute on your business, right? And then it has to be defensible too. It has to be something that either you have intellectual property to protect or you have some other strategy for ensuring that a competitor can't just come and immediately wipe you out, which does not happen as often as you think it does, by the way. That's actually much more rare. Okay, and then we have 2 more here, because you have the right team. So everybody knows startup, right? All that matters is team. Everybody goes, team is important, team is important, team is important, and it is. Team is really important. But this means different things based on your stage. When you're just starting out, do you have the right mix of founders that you can actually pull this off? Do you have expertise in sales? Do you have expertise in product? Do you have expertise in technology? Do you have expertise in finance? Do you have those things covered? But as you grow, it's your ability to acquire the talent you don't have. By writing checks, right? The ability to acquire talent you don't have and then retain those employees over time. So you have the right team. Then lastly, that says traction. Lastly, our theory is right because we have traction with customers, meaning customers are actually telling us yes. They're telling us yes with their pocketbooks, that's the long-term vision, or they're telling us yes through some of the reasons, beta signups or whatever, they dropped in their email address to a thing, weaker evidence, still evidence, right? But you have traction with customers. Customers are actually telling us yes. All right, so those are the 5 T's, and I know I just vomited a whole ton of information at you. That was a lot. I told you I was going to squeeze your brains like a stress ball. So let's put all of that kind of on one slide, because you'll see it's actually nowhere near as complicated as I make it sound, right? So the credible theory of hugeness, I'm glad this one shows up correctly, by the way. This would have been hilarious if that popped up and showed something strange. So here's the summary, right? So hugeness, right? We're after a really big exit, some liquidity event at the end where we sell this company or take it public or whatever so that we can cash out, our investors can cash out, and we can do that. But in order to do that, we got to be making a play in a really big market. It's the only way we can do that. And within that market, we got to have desirability that people want this solution. They have the problem. They really want a solution to it. They want our solution to it. So we can make that big play for hugeness. But we're not huge yet. So we have a go-to-market strategy where we can identify some early adopters, use them as a wedge, get into the market, and use that to kind of scale out of there. We have a business model such that once those people do come in, we're able to actually turn that into something that's interesting. And then we actually have the ability to pull this off, that this thing is actually feasible. But it's not just a cockamamie scheme because we have credibility. We have evidence that the market is really big. We have evidence that the timing is right. We have evidence that the technology is defensible and that it's real. And we have a team that can pull this off. And of course, customers are telling us yes. So we're right because of each of those things. So that's the credible theory of hugeness. It's a lot there. Now, this might be what you're thinking, because I do like the metacognition. So I like thinking about thinking, which is what we've spent time thinking about, I guess. Instead, I want to make it super tactical. I want to actually take this and turn it into some like real steps here that you can actually follow. So, if you're after a credible theory of hugeness, right? What it really comes down to is a simple process of entrepreneurship. And I've summarized the entire process of entrepreneurship in 7 steps. For those of you out there who are aspiring to become entrepreneurs, this is your playbook. And Jeff was talking about a lot of it earlier today. This is the playbook that you follow, right? Is that you find that growing group of customers that you can be really passionate about, that you're going to become obsessed with singularly, so that you understand that their problems, right? Really deeply, you develop that strong empathy for them. And then once you have that group of customers there and you can prove that they have this problem, they're telling you, yes, please, Josh, solve that problem for me because it sucks, right? As soon as you're getting that, then you want that problem that you can solve better than your competition and that you can solve better than the customers hacking it together themselves because, gosh darn it, they needed a solution to it, right? And then once you have them saying yes to that, you need to make that repeatable, such that you know exactly what's going on in your business. If we throw this message in front of that group of people, X% will convert, Y% will retain over this period of time, Z% will refer their friends, and here we go. We calculated our CAC and our LTV, and everything's fantastic, and we know all of our numbers. That's what we call predictability, right? If you're predictable, you're repeatable. If you're repeatable, you're scalable. Because at that point, all you got to do is pour gas on it, right? Because it works. The thing works. So now you just pour gas on it. That's how you scale it really, really, really big. And then, of course, you do the really easy part, which is somebody just comes along and saves the day by writing you a big-ass check. That's all we're going to say about that, but that's false. But you have that exit at the end because it's such a desirable asset that you've built. That's the whole process of entrepreneurship. It's really it. That's it. Entrepreneurship is really hard, but it's not complicated. It really isn't. So I actually want to take this 7 steps and bubble it up one more time. Okay? I'm gonna bubble up one more time into the 4 things that you're searching for. Okay? So, if you just kind of hang in there for a sec. I promise I'm gonna land the plane in a minute. And then we'll get to questions. These are the 4 things that you're looking for. That's probably hard to read, so don't worry about it. But the first thing you're looking for is what we call founder market fit. This is where you, the founder, are the right person or team of founders to solve this problem because you have that obsession with the market. That's the first thing. If you're going out there and you're trying to explore this entrepreneurship thing and you're just like, these people aren't my people and I don't like talking to them and I don't like this, it's not your space, dude. Like step out of that. Find space that you're really passionate about, whose people you want to spend every day with, that whose customers you know really well, whose customers you know really well. Get all of that knowledge that you can, and this is a space where you just want to become obsessed, right? And there's so many of these people out there, right? That's what you want. Then you have founder market fit. Okay, that's awesome, because even if you're wrong about the solution, heck, even if you're wrong about the problem, you're going to stumble into something because you're so singularly obsessed with that space. That you're going to find something in there that you can turn into something valuable, even if you're wrong the first 483 times, which you probably will be, right? Once you have that, once you're making the right, a play in the right market rather, then you want to say, okay, I want problem customer fit. This is where I can really simply identify this exact person. If I get in front of them, I know that they have this problem and that problem is really urgent, it's high on their priority list, it's really severe, and that they will pay to solve it, right? That's it. Problem customer fit at that point. It's that really large unmet need. That's what the subtext says there. Once you have that, then we get into problem solution fit. You notice that we're on step 3 of 4, and just now we talked about the solution. Before that, we weren't even talking about it because it didn't matter yet. But once we have this problem that we know people are desperate to solve, we can come up with a solution, we can put it in front of them, we can test it and see if that's the right solution to their problem. If it's not, we pivot to a different one. The problem's still real. The people are still waiting for a solution. We just had the wrong one. Let's try this one. That's a pivot, right? So you want to get that problem solution fit where you're throwing a value proposition out to the market and they're really just grabbing onto it, right? They might even be paying for it at this point, but they're really grabbing onto it. And then lastly is model market fit. Model here being like your business model and kind of the broader model that you're working with, the mental model of your startup, right? This is where you get those components I was mentioning before that just work. Where you're able to just pour gas on it and get it to scale because things are really predictable. You know how you're acquiring customers, you know how you're activating them, you know how you're getting revenue from them, how you're retaining them, how you're referring for them. Those, by the way, are the pirate metrics, which I only mention because the audience is kind of dipping their heads a little bit. They're called pirate metrics. It's the AARRR, or R. There. welcome back. So model market fit, when actually you're making this play in a space where all the customers are actually reacting to it in super predictable ways, you're able to connect that together, and you just pour gas on it, and now you have the ability to scale. Those are the 4 things that you're looking for. Right? First, are you making the play in the right space? Are you the right person in that right space? Are these customers do they have this problem? Is that the right mix there? Is it the right solution to that particular problem? And do we have a model here that is really predictable and that we can scale? Those are those 4 things. Okay. Now, I was supposed to be talking about product market fit, and I'm super curious if there's anyone here who's been paying attention long enough to realize that it's been like 20 minutes since I mentioned the word product market fit. Did anybody notice? You even noticed. Okay, we got a few hands here. So yes, I am going to land this plane because we're going to bring this back to product market fit. I opened with the question of what is product market fit, right? Product market fit is actually a super straightforward concept when you really think about it. In the beginning of a startup, we're asking all these questions. Well, what if these customers out here have this problem? And what if this solution? And what if we charge this way and this amount? And what if? Product market fit is when you're able to go from what if to what is. When it becomes the state of things, the reality of things, that you've proven it along the way. Or put a completely different way, is when that credible theory that you have about your hugeness becomes the fact of your hugeness. Until then, you don't have product market fit. You may have varying degrees of evidence. It may be really strong evidence, but you're not there yet. And the goal of entrepreneurship is to get to the point where you have reasonable hypotheses, and then turn those reasonable hypotheses into evidence, and then turn that evidence into a thing that is predictable and therefore repeatable and therefore scalable, and then lastly to scale it. And then, by the way, to get the hell out of there and move on to the next marathon. That's the exit, right? That's why it's not a lifestyle business. So that, as they say, is that. So I would love to take some questions now. If you want, if this was not something that you thought, wow, I wish I was outside drinking instead, you can pull out your phone and scan this QR code, or if you can read that address there, you can go to that address, throw it on your email address. It'll send you a copy of the slides, some follow-on resources, some templates and tools, and some YouTube videos. And if you just want to dive deeper into like entrepreneurship and the process, that's how you can get it. And that email, by the way, comes from me. So it's literally my email address, which is jdm@rightbox.co. And so you can just click reply to that email. So if you have a question that either we didn't get a chance to ask here, or because I was talking so freaking fast and cramming so much into your head for 25 minutes that you think of it on the car ride home, I am arrogant enough to think you're thinking about me in 6 hours. Then you can say, okay, let me reply to that email from JDM and actually ask a question. I would be happy to field your questions offline too. So don't feel like you have the pressure now. And with that, thank you. And questions?
All right, let's give him a hand first. Woo! So I hope you guys know why we put him on after lunch. Hopefully it helped wake some of you up.
My work cut out for
That's
me.
That's right. I know. I thought I'd make it hard for you.
I was feeling it too.
Sorry, dude.
At lunch.
Okay, we're going to open it up for questions for about 5 minutes. And hold on, I'm speaking a little ahead of myself. Where are my mic people? Raise your hands. All right, okay. Mics are running around. So if anybody has any questions for Josh David Miller. Oh, we see some hands up. All right, let's do it.
Oh, Gary's going to cause trouble. Is that what I see over there? I see some of my Sacramento people here. That's awesome. By the way, this is my 3rd consecutive year coming to GorwTECH Fest because I love everything that's happening here in Chico. I love the work that Eva and Heather and the whole team put on, and it's just an awesome community. I absolutely love it. So thank you very much for having me. Did I vamp long enough for a microphone to get in someone's hand? Okay. Somebody just start talking. Yes.
So I have kind of a personal question. What is your vitamin/caffeine regimen? Because I would like some.
Okay. So, good question. The short answer is it's not cocaine, and it's not suspicious that I say that, right?
Somebody just said that in the audience. No big deal.
Oh, they said I was on cocaine? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not. I am sober, but I will say this: I am on coffee today, but I also have a fair amount of delirium because I am a new dad of a 4-month-old infant, so I'm on no sleep. So, thank you very much. But that's where this is coming from: is mental illness and sleep deprivation and a general passion for entrepreneurship. your questions don't have to be specifically about product market fit. If you just want to ask about entrepreneurship in general, that's what I do. So feel free to ask a process question as well. That's totally cool.
Okay. Are you ready?
Hit me, Gary. Let's do it.
Okay, so 50 years of looking at entrepreneurs, what I've noticed is they can answer your questions as a matter of history. They figured it out over time. Mm-hmm. But they, if you were to put all those questions in front of them, they might never undertake entrepreneurship because they'd be scared by how much they don't know. Fortunately, one of the characteristics of real entrepreneurs is ignorance. Because looking back on it, I haven't had one tell me that if they had to do it over again and if they understood everything that they found out, they would have necessarily done it. So I am grateful that most entrepreneurs pay no attention to what you just said.
Thanks, Gary.
So, but think of it in the young lady with the almond milk business. Starts out making it in the kitchen and selling it at farmers markets. Mm-hmm. Discovered that there is at least some kind of local customer market fit. Gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If you were to ask her, she may still be here and can answer it. If your goal is to dominate the almond milk market globally, hugeness, she'd probably say no. A lot of good entrepreneurs start out more or less as lifestyle businesses, and then, son of a gun, that they've discovered that there's more to it, and they just keep going. So it seems to me like the key to keeping entrepreneurships going are more people like Peter Strauss.
Where's Peter?
You get the encouragement, you get the mentorship, and they know what a big problem it is. Mm-hmm. But I'm interested to hear your response, because if I were a starting out entrepreneur and I saw what you just said, I'd go try to find a business in a big corporation. Mm-hmm. So how do we get over the fact that when people realize how big a problem it is, it may be just too daunting, and encourage people to go forward and give it a shot, that you don't have to know everything in order to give it a shot.
Totally. Okay, so I love that question. There's actually really a lot of wisdom in there to unpack, like the value of mentorship and getting people who've done this before and can kind of just point at the moon, right, and say like that's take a look, right? That's just absolutely critical. A couple of other things that I'll respond to there as well is that when we're talking about doing a scalable business versus a lifestyle business, they are fundamentally different. And that they are fundamentally different. The first question any entrepreneur asks is, what kind of business do I want to run? It's not that you can't change your mind later, but from day one, if your goal is to have a paycheck and make some good money, create something that's valuable, have some work-life balance, whatever that even means, right? Then a lifestyle business is fantastic. You can make really, really good money doing a lifestyle business, right? But investors don't put money into lifestyle businesses, right? So that you're not going to grow really, really large. So at some point, and I think we were hearing this a little bit with Clive earlier, talking about LogRx, right? Where like this right now it's a lifestyle business. Like I'm not thinking about it, and we could tell from the pitch. It was a good pitch, Clive, if you're still in the room. But we could tell from the pitch that like this is not. Oh, there you are. That this is not an investor pitch. It's not geared toward investors because that's not the thing right now. That doesn't matter today. But the thing is scalable. And so if at some point that changes into, you know what, we want to take this down a different path, I feel up in a place in my life where I want to do this, then you can absolutely shift. Then you go back to saying, okay, what does it look like to switch from where we are to this thing? Because our strategies are going to change, the way we approach capital is going to change, our life personally is just going to change, and so forth. And so all that can shift. So it can change over time, to your point, and a lot of fantastic entrepreneurs are not doing scalable startups because that's not the only way to do entrepreneurship. But if you're setting out to change the world, if that's your goal, then this is the process you want to follow. If your goal is to just be a kick-ass business person, innovative, get out there, crush it, have a great life, you don't necessarily need this process, to your point. Maybe later you'll want it, maybe you won't, and neither's right or wrong.
I don't so much as have a question as a response to what he said. This is my fourth startup. And I know that having mentors and so forth is great, but I can tell you that female entrepreneurs are over-mentored and over-coached and all this kind of stuff. What we really need is more of what Ava's doing with Chico Start, where you have space and those things that are truly expensive, and then also having these opportunities to be in front of lots of people to get your word out, and also do a lot of customer discovery as well. So I would say mentoring's fine, but it's a dime a dozen anymore. No, not putting any mentors down. But for capital is what we need. And in order to get that done, we also need childcare. We also need internet access. We need those sort of basic things that often are overlooked. And someone says, well, I'll just give you some mentoring. Well, I got to spend my time not listening to a mentor give me some advice when they don't know about my business or my industry. So what would you say to that?
It's a very strange thing to be on stage for Q&A for everything. I'm going to say something and you're going to respond to it because I have power over you while you're up there on stage. So thanks for the trend, my friend. It's okay. This is like a reverse TED Talk here. It's fine. I mean, I do agree with what you said because there isn't one path, there isn't one goal. It's a circuitous path. I made it seem super linear when it is emphatically not. It is the messiest, most chaotic, crazy-making experience that you would ever go through. I think it's worth it, but it's all of those things, right? And so because of that, you do need a plethora of different things. I think mentorship is crazy important, but like anything else, there are good mentors and bad mentors. And there's a difference, I think, between coaching and mentoring. So coaching is, let me help you along with this skill that I know really well. So you can have somebody coach you on user experience, for example, or fundraising or whatever, because it's a thing that they know really well and they're going to coach you on the thing. Mentorship is different in my mind, and when those two things get crossed is when we get in trouble. Because a mentor should do three things and three things only. A mentor should answer questions, right, about generally how do we think about things, right? They answer questions. They provide resources like, oh, you want to learn about user experience or fundraising, there's a guy you should talk to, here's her name, right? So they provide resources. And the third thing they do is remove obstacles, and that's the important one. Because a lot of what you're talking about here is mentors introducing additional obstacles, including mental ones, into the space, right? And a good mentor doesn't do that. A good mentor pulls things away and makes the plate cleaner, right? So that's what a good mentor does. And when mentors and coaches get mixed up is when you have just chaos and mess. So I think that they're really important. Your broader point, though, I also think is really critical. Everybody thinks like what a startup needs is money at the end of the day, and that's not true. It's true for some businesses, and it's true for a lot more businesses at a certain stage. But in fact, here's a fun statistic. 0.02% of startups receive venture capital. That's 1 in 2,000 will receive venture capital. That's it. Capital's not the thing. Everybody, like entrepreneurs want to make it the goal, like that's the thing. And so we just need this pipeline to throw into it. We need that too, but that's not the only thing. There's a broad ecosystem of support that entrepreneurs need. So that's why I do things like this for Eva, because there is that big ecosystem. We're just going to like heap the praise on because you've been working so hard. And you deserve it. But that's why we need that. And down in the SAC, we have the same kind of thing. That's why I do a lot of giving back in those same things, because the broader ecosystem is so important too. It's not my field, like all that other stuff that you mentioned, like childcare and telecommunications and so forth. So I won't speak to that. But I will say that there's a broader ecosystem of support that entrepreneurs need, even culturally. I don't know why there aren't more entrepreneurship programs in high school. So yeah.
One more question for the crowd, please.
Or comment, apparently.
Or comment.
Critique. I guess that's my fault. I did put it up there.
I was going to say, about childcare. I don't know what you were talking about, but I've seen pictures.
Believe me, I don't know it yet.
Hello.
Where are we?
Right here.
Keep talking. I'll find you. Oh, there you are.
That's at 11 o'clock? All right. Just a quick question. We went through a lot of business theory throughout the conversation. You did answer a lot. You ran through a lot of words. Before you leave stage, I do want to know more about the resource you provide. Like, what is the dynamic between you and one of your clients? Why should we email you when you leave stage?
Well, you should only email me if you have a question, because that was my only call to action. I'm not here to sell you anything. But since you asked, I do a few things. If you're just interested in like learning about entrepreneurship, I do have a Substack. So there's one shameless plug. So you can just get access to information that way. I also, like I mentioned, I do a lot of giving back work as well, which is like this here, where I just come and talk to a group of like-minded, awesome people. I also work with early stage entrepreneurs. I have like a boot camp that I run that's one-on-one, where we get together to try to help you find, not product market fit, it's way too early for that, but help you find out if there's a there. How do you find your early customers? Is it the right customer? How do you validate and how you get those early sales? To help you figure out that process at about 13 weeks. It's not an accelerator. It's tailored to you. So there's that as well. If you're fundraising, I do pitch reviews as well. So you can just grab an hour of my time and we'll do like a really in-depth pitch review, which is something I do as well. And then lastly, and most critically for me at least, is my company, The Right Box. We are like a bespoke design company. A studio, if you will. And so we help startups that are between the seed and Series A stages find product market fit, find the traction they need to actually raise that Series A round, meaning to actually make sure that they're not just, because these are companies that are already selling to customers. They're already got that, but are they selling to the right customers? Do they have this formulated the right way? How can we rapidly run experiments using design sprints to actually figure out that we're on the right track and then get that done? And so I offer those whole wealth of things, but since you asked. But otherwise, that is just like, have my slide deck, have some YouTube videos. If you're feeling particularly charitable, I'd love for you to sign up for my Substack. It's free, but that's it.
All right, let's give him a hand.
Thank you.
As you.